All right, so what was the neighborhood like when you were growing up?
It was,
I guess more so, do you remember like some of the stores and, you know, the restaurants, the businesses
Oh, sure,
in the
That
area?
kind of stuff. is
Okay.
what- I almost drew, excuse me, I almost drew a map, you know, with straight lines like this is Bowman Street and this is Longview. From Longview, all the places that were there, you know, stores. I almost did that.
Yeah.
And I gave up on it.
Okay.
well,
Well,
if you would have walked, like 2 houses down from where I was, which would have been Chester, and you would have walked over to Bowman Street, you would have come to a little A&P grocery store. Very
Yes.
small. But that's, when we had money to do anything, that's where we dealt, because we didn't have a car to go. And next to it was a bar called Sandy Maxwell's. And it was there for years and years and years. Okay, if I remember correctly, across the street from that was a gun shop that was called Adams.
Yes, yes.
And then if you went on down the street, you would come to Creveling, Bowman School.
Okay, so we're talking about Bowman Street here. Is
Yes,
what, okay,
yes.
okay.
This is all Bowman.
Okay, thank you.
And then you would come to Bowman School.
Mhm.
Across the street was like a drugstore called Nussbaum's.
Yeah.
And I went to school and graduated with their son.
Okay.
Next to it was like a little, stairway, and it led to apartments above the drugstore. And there was another little store there, but I can't recall what it was. Do you?
The guy that did fixed radios and stuff was in there.
Oh, that's right.
And
That
there
is
was
exactly what it was.
A little bitty Kroger store in there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And,
And
let's see, something else.
as you went down,
You went down in a basement, there was a beauty shop.
Mm-hmm.
You went in
That's
from
right.
the outside.
That's where the steps went.
Yeah, you went from the outside, you were
Mhm.
alongside the building.
Mhm.
And there was a beauty shop down there.
Mhm. If you went on down the street, there was on the corner, it was either Vale or Buckingham, I'm not sure. There was a little store, and it was called Pretzler's.
Yeah,
You remember that?
yeah.
And I used to go in there, and Mom would send us down like to get something. And I would stand there, and the poor man, bless his heart, I would ask him what everything in the candy case was. And I wasn't going to buy any because I didn't have any money. But I would go, what is this? And he'd say it. I'd say, well, what is it made out of? And as if the poor man knew everything that it was made out of, you know. And if I did have a penny, I would buy a licorice because it lasted longer than anything else because it came in a plug. Oh my, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you went on down the street, and there was Smitten Pete's Hardware.
The corner of that and Vale. But
Mhm.
before that, there was Buckingham and the shoe guy
Shoe
who
repair.
repaired shoes
Yeah,
and
I was
stuff.
in there many a time.
Yes, he
Yeah.
always repaired shoes.
Mhm.
And the dry cleaners was beside the school, going
Yeah, on
toward,
the other side.
Yeah.
Mhm.
because I worked there
Mhm. Mhm.
for a while.
And then after Spring Mill, I sort of lost track of what was on.
There was
Because we didn't-
there was Isley's at the corner.
Beg pardon?
Isley's at the corner of Spring
Yeah,
Mill.
but that was later, wasn't it?
Oh, that was early,
Was it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was an
Isley's
Isley
store
store.
at the corner of Bowman and Spring Mill.
Mhm.
And there was 2 gas stations catty-cornered from each
Right.
other there.
Mm-hmm.
And on up Spring Mill, there was a
Oh, there was a
market
corner
or store
Yeah,
up
right.
there by Woodland.
Yes, there was.
Close to Woodland, there was
I
a
don't remember
store
the
or a
name of it.
market, I don't either remember that.
And if you went down, was it Buckingham or Vale? There was Uli's Market, Uli's Bakery.
Can't remember.
It ran
Yeah.
between Mulberry and Bowman.
And then there used to be the Ice House on Louise,
Mhm.
which was off of Harker,
Mhm.
and just before you get to 39. Louise
Something
goes
that
in.
I had and kept for the longest time is like when the ice wagon would come, in the summertime, like the heat is now and really hot. Nobody had fans. I mean, you're lucky if you had electricity to turn the lights on. And the ice wagon would come down, and the man must have been a saint, because he would stop up at the corner and chip ice into slivers.
Yeah, give
And as he came, is that right?
give all the kids a piece of
As he
ice.
came down the street, he gave all of you a piece of ice.
Yeah.
And I remember my mother would say, Betty, remember you're a girl. You don't go in the middle of the street and yell, the Iceman's coming, the Iceman's coming.
used to come and stop there
I just got so
by our house.
excited.
Yeah.
And he usually stopped by our house.
Mhm.
Okay, and if you wanted ice, they gave you a card that said 25 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever, and you put that in your window, so he would know to bring that into your house. Well, we very seldom did that, but once in a while we get 25 pounds. But to have him come down the street, I swear he's in heaven and I will see him soon.
Yeah.
Can't
remember his name.
That he would actually stop up there and chip ice just for the kids down the street.
Oh, yeah.
It was better than any ice cream. It was better than anything you were going to have the rest of the day. It was just because it was a special treat. What a good man.
Yeah, we had the old ice boxes, you know, and then he would bring it in, put it in
Yeah.
for you.
Now, was this, I understand it was like a horse-drawn cart, is that correct? Or
No,
was
he
there a
didn't
truck?
have no, he had an old truck.
There was a
He had
truck,
an old
okay.
truck.
Really old truck.
Okay.
And then the ice, there would be sawdust down, and then the ice would be on top, and then it had a big tarp that went over the top.
Okay.
And so sometimes he would say, if he sold a lot of ice, he would say to us kids, when he'd come down, he'd say, you have to wash them. You have to wash these chips because it has sawdust on it, you know.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it was just pure delight. Mhm.
Well, I asked that, I don't know if you ladies know Mrs. Eileen Levison. Does that name mean anything to you?
Levison.
Now, she grew up in the house up here that's, what would that be, Fifth and Walnut. It's still
Fifth and
standing, it's a
Walnut?
very old, and she's written a couple little books about the area.
Oh, I know.
Do you know
Yeah, I
Mrs.
know what you're
Levinson?
talking about.
Yeah, well, she did an interview with us, and she was telling us, and I think she was talking about the 1930s, that the ice truck, that
Right.
she remembered there was a horse-drawn truck, which that surprised me in the 30s, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that. Can
No,
you?
no.
I think
So at that point, I mean, I guess it
it was
wasn't.
just like an old truck that chugged along.
Okay, but it wasn't. I don't know how to say this. At that time, would you see people with horses? I mean,
No,
or was it
no,
primarily
no, no.
automobiles? If there were people
No, it
in
was
the-
old cars.
Old cars.
And the cars were all big.
Okay.
The first car my dad ever had was an Essex. And it was like a limousine. I mean, it was so big. And luckily with 8 kids.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I tell my kids, and they'll just laugh, especially the great-grandkids. Okay, all 10 of us could fit in it, right? But what we did was like the mom and dad in the front, okay? And actually they'd ride 3, and my baby sister would be in the front, okay? And then they'd put 2 camp stools in between the next bench. So my sister and I, who were next to the smallest, would sit there, then all the rest would sit in the back. And then on the side, it would sort of remind you of a hearse.
Oh.
On the side, there would be like a little vase with little artificial flowers in it.
Oh,
On each side, you know. And when my dad would drive the Essex, it would be, you just thought you were hot stuff. I can't tell you any other reason than that. But mostly we would use the car. He didn't use the car to go to work. He still walked to work. But when on a Saturday or a Sunday, all of us kids would pile in, and we'd go out to Fleming Falls, which Fleming Falls, had a swimming hole, and we went out there to swim. And what we would do is pick blackberries first. After we got done picking the blackberries, our treat was we all got to swim in Fleming Falls.
Nice.
I had a very good life.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
I wouldn't trade.
no, we
No,
had
would
too
you-
good of a
wouldn't either,
time.
would
No,
you?
No,
So continuing on the sort of the different businesses that you remember and the different things, any other, like, we're also kind of interested in sort of the old downtown, Main Street, anything you can remember, give us
Okay.
from your childhood or that you
Hershey's
remember?
Drugstore. Well, no, not Hershey's. What was it? Was it Hershey's?
Myers,
Muir's.
Muir's.
Muir's. At the corner of 6th and Main.
Oh, no, that wasn't, no, that was a different one.
That was a different one.
Yeah, there was a okay.
All the he was German, and all the German
Yeah.
people used to go there to the drugstore.
Okay, if you were coming in, say you were down by the granary,
Okay.
and you're coming in, then there was the High Brass,
Mhm.
and then there was the American Restaurant, is that right?
I think
On
that
the
was,
opposite
yeah.
side, right? And it was actually, they called it the American Restaurant. It was an Italian restaurant, where you would go for spaghetti, right?
Yeah, we always went there.
We always went there.
After the big dances at the
That's right.
airport.
Now, that's not the Boston Spaghetti House?
That's right.
Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, right. You're
Okay.
right. I'm wrong on that.
All right.
There's, the next one is the American one.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you went across the tracks,
Yeah,
okay,
There was-
the first thing that you came to on the left-hand side going in would be my aunt and uncle's Kramer's Hotel.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. And then, oh
I
gosh,
thought there was a spaghetti house across the street from Crane.
it
from
was,
there.
after you went across the tracks,
Yeah,
it was
that's
there.
where
Yeah.
the one we used to go to.
So it was right, it was the American, then you cross the tracks, then it was the Boston
Yeah.
Spaghetti House,
Mhm.
and if you cross the street the other way, it was Kramer's Hotel. And how Kramer's Hotel was bought is my uncle came here from County Cavan, Ireland.
Mhm.
And he had a brother who was already here and was rather established. And they bought the Kramer Hotel on the steps of the courthouse at a sheriff's sale.
Hmm.
And it thrived forever. It thrived forever. And what made the reason for its success was that it was at the railroad tracks.
Hmm.
And it would happen to be where where the guys, that was their last, okay, if you did your run and it was the end of your run, then you stayed, you're a railroader, you stayed at the Kramer Hotel, okay? And so that's how they prospered, because they
The
had all the
railroad
rooms
station
there.
was right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. But then the guys, when they had
Yeah.
to stay over, you know, they were only allowed to
Yeah.
be so long on the road, then they had to stay over. And that's how they prospered. And they prospered for years.
Yeah,
It went for years and years
the
and years
railroad
and
station
years.
used to be in there.
Mhm.
And I can remember in 47, 48, we used to play Massillon. It used to be our big football
Yeah, it was a
rival.
mhm.
And somehow, we had tickets to go on a train, a whole mess of us from
Mhm.
school.
Yeah, they ran to Massillon. Mhm.
Yeah, and they took the train to Massillon.
Mhm.
And I got sick, couldn't go. So my husband took a friend of his, and they went to the football game and got to ride the train.
Mhm.
And I was mad.
Mhm. And they'd run them to, another time, they'd run them to Toledo Right.
Yeah.
And I went to Toledo Right. Mhm. The railroads were a big concern here then. My grandpa worked for the railroads. When he came here from Ireland, that's the first and only place I know that he ever worked, was for the railroad. Mhm. Which is not uncommon, because that's who they were hiring.
Sure.
So, as you went down, after the Kramer Hotel, I'm trying to think what would be
There was
next.
apartments in there,
There was the apartments.
yeah.
They were called the Davies Apartments.
Yeah.
They were called the Davies Apartments. And they were like transient.
Yeah,
I mean, people weren't staying there very long,
Yeah.
you know. Okay, I can't remember what. And then there was was it called the Merry-Go-Rounds Bar on the corner of 6th and Main.
is that there? I'm not real sure.
Yeah, it was called the Merry-Go-Rounds.
Yeah.
And then across the street from it was the drugstore that you were talking
Yeah.
about, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm. And as you went up towards 4th Street.
Mhm.
There was a lot of shops like Gentili's, and what Gentili's did was they sold odds and ends of things like if your plumbing broke, you could
Oh,
go in
yeah.
there and get
Oh,
a spare
yeah.
part,
Mhm.
or just odds and ends is what I would say when you,
Yeah.
yeah. And that thrived for years.
Mhm.
And there was.
On up there was a Coney Island.
Yes, then you got up to the top of Coney Island, and
Yeah. There was a Hungarian, they made Hungarian goulash there someplace along there.
And Chris's Cafe, I think
Yeah.
they were down here.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
Chris's
who it
Cafe
was.
was down there,
Yeah.
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 Now you started to tell us when we first started, before we were rolling cameras, about Bisman and this sort of area where we are right now.
Mhm.
Any memories, or I mean, was it anything you can tell us about that?
What was here, you mean?
Yeah, like what was in this site, or like the Vaguely apartments. Do you have any idea what they did in that? It's now an apartment building.
Yeah, that was coming up from the tracks.
Right.
It would have been Kramer's, and then,
Because like
something
we're,
else.
6th is right here,
Right, yeah.
6th and
Mhm.
Main.
Right, okay, above 6 was Tucker's Furniture Store,
Okay.
and they were my great aunt and uncle.
Oh.
Mhm. And they took up a large space. And, boy, it's hard to remember all of it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the opposite corner was the Ritz
Theater.
nightclub,
Yeah, the nightclub.
which
We went
really
to the
was
movie.
infamous.
Yeah, and we used to, every Friday night, the Ritz movie, we used to go to.
Okay, yeah, as you could, there was a Ritz Cafe,
Mhm.
that would have been the corner of 6th and
Maine.
Main. Okay,
And
then
then-
as you come up, there was the
The
Ritz Theater.
Yes.
Okay, next to the Ritz Theater was a little shop, and when you went by there, you instantly became hungry because they were always roasting nuts and popcorn, and do you remember that?
Sorta.
Yeah,
That
they
was a
they
long
would,
time ago.
just before you went in the theater, they just had a good little spot
There you
there,
go,
right?
yeah.
Okay, and it cost 10 cents to go to the Ritz. Okay, and then above that, there, setting back a little bit, there was like a little, there was a building, and I don't know that they used the downstairs, but the upstairs they rented as apartments, because my sister-in-law lived there as a child.
Nice.
Mhm. And then you went on up, and there was like a furniture store,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There used to be Meisner's Dime Store.
Yeah,
on
that's way
there.
up, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, on up the
Okay,
road.
there, then you got, then above that, as you went up a little further, I'll have to skip because I don't remember what's in between, there was a Western Union,
Mhm.
and then next to the Western Union was a billiard club, and it was simply called the club,
Mhm.
okay? And on the corner was the bank. Okay, then you crossed 4th Street, and there was Ash Hat Shop. Just a little place, this is where I got my hat for my wedding.
Mhm.
And then next
Oh,
was
yeah.
Kroger, next was Baisley's Meat Market.
Mhm.
Then there was Kroger's. And then there was a little dress shop. I think it was called the Holly Shop. And
I remember that.
then you came, pardon?
Yeah, they're co-backers, no, that's on.
Yeah, that's
the-
on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there was Neisner's, 5 and
Meisner's,
10.
5 and 10.
Okay, and on the corner, at that time, I don't know what was in
I
there.
can't
Later,
remember.
later it was O'Neill's, but at
Yeah.
that time, I don't know what that
I
was.
don't remember.
And you crossed the street, and there was a dry goods store, and a rather expensive, exclusive, and it was called Sigenthaler's.
Hmm.
And you could enter it from Walnut, or you could enter it from Maine. It was along through there. Okay, next to it was a little, like, gift shop, and then there was Maxwell's,
Mhm.
department store, which later burnt down.
I was actually been asking folks, do you remember why that, I've asked a few other people that didn't really know. Do you remember what the circumstances were behind that?
Beg pardon?
Like why, what happened, why it burned down, or what caused the fire or anything?
No, I don't know. I know my husband was, I probably could look that up for you, because my husband fought the fire there. Mhm.
We have a really great photograph of the fire
Yeah.
and, them fighting it.
Yeah, because my husband
Yeah.
was on duty then. After you went past that, there was Rogers Jewelry Store. And then there was a little shop that was Fanny Farmer's Candy.
Yeah, oh, yes, oh, yes.
Famous,
Mhm.
okay. And then there was the bank.
Okay.
And I'm sure I've lost,
Oh, yeah.
left out some
That's
of it.
great,
You know.
because there's a few that you've mentioned that others haven't and vice versa, so.
Okay, if you're on the other side of the street, now we would be coming up Main,
Mhm.
you would have been on the right-hand side.
Mhm.
Okay, coming up on the left-hand side, you would have, after you left Tucker's Furniture Store, which would have been on the corner of Sixth and Main, there was Wagner Awning.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Pete's mom worked there. Was Wagner Awning, and that went really, really big during the war.
Mhm.
Okay,
Now, you say Wagner Awning,
Wagner Awning.
and they just, as the name implies, they sold awnings
That's
for
right.
buildings and,
Mhm.
okay, just,
And they did war work,
I see,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, and then next to that, I don't know why, just want to tell you, there were several little junk stores, because they were like secondhand stores.
Okay,
And there were like 2 or 3 of them. Okay, then you got up to City News,
Yeah,
what sold newspapers and that.
and where was that located then?
It was
that,
about 3 doors down from 4th Street.
okay.
Okay, then next to it was Coney Island.
So kind of where it's at now?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
okay,
that's
so it's
right.
been in the same,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Then there was Coney Island, okay.
Mhm.
And next to that was a drugstore called Muir's, M-U-I-R-S drugstore, okay. And then, after you crossed over, there used to be, now this would not have been quite in the early years, but this would have been during the war years. There was Sutter's.
yeah.
And Sutter's was the hangout for everyone.
Everybody went there and got ice cream.
Everybody went, it was like,
What would you?
ice cream parlor.
Okay.
Mhm. And you're not gonna believe
Like a
this,
Dairy Queen in a sense of saying.
but
You
but
go
there
in there
was
and
lots
get-
of booze.
Yeah,
And it was so busy that they actually had a velvet rope, that you had to stay behind the velvet rope and wait to get in.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because all the guys come up for the service, they go there to meet the girls,
Mhm.
and the girls, they go there to meet the guys.
oh, yeah.
So that was the social
Ice
spot.
cream,
that was a
yeah,
social
go in
spot.
there and get ice cream.
Right. Then next to that, I think, was Brooks, and that was a woman's
clothing
clothing store.
store, yeah.
Mhm. And then, oh gosh, along there somewhere,
So it was a
up a
little-
little further, was Richmond's men's clothing store.
Mhm.
There may have been a building or two, a store or two between there.
Mhm.
And then you got to the corner and there was Miriam's Beauty Shop upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? Now, don't go there, they'll burn your hair.
Yeah, either that or, I know, go to Kobackers and they'll do
Yeah,
it.
right. Then you would be at 3rd, okay. And there was the bank,
Mhm.
which is still
Yeah,
there.
that's,
Now, what bank was it? It was the,
First National.
It was First
It's always
National.
First-
It's
yeah.
always been
It's
First.
always been First,
Okay.
as long as I can remember.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then next to it, which seemed a little bizarre, was a little loan company.
Mhm.
I don't remember the name of it, but there was a little loan company, just a small building.
Mhm.
Okay, and then after that was Kobackers,
can't remember.
okay? And Actually, they're still using part of Kobach's.
Yeah, I guess
We
they
just had
call
our
it.
class reunion
Oh,
there.
did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they got the
Party.
Kobacher room.
Yeah,
is
that's
the-
right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I noticed that.
And my gosh, that was a big to-do. I mean, so many kids from school worked there.
Oh,
and-
yes,
And
definitely.
it was a department store,
Okay.
you
It
know.
was a good one.
And it was a good one, right?
Yes.
Okay, after that was Reed's.
Mhm.
And Reed's was there as long as,
I can
Yeah.
remember.
long before my time even.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, when you went, someone told us that some of the department stores had a system where you would like send. It was kind of like today when you go to the drive-through at the bank where you had the little thing, you put the money in and
Yeah.
you sent it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
That, does
And
that mean anything?
that was Penny's.
At Penny's.
That was at Penny's. They did that.
was at Penny's.
So that
and
was
Penny's was on Park Avenue.
okay.
It was on Park Avenue and Walnut.
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember that as well?
Oh,
and-
sure,
yeah.
You'd go in there and you would buy
Looked
an
like a tin
item.
can and you put the
You'd buy
money in it.
Yeah, it was just a container.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it would be fun because you'd watch it run all along
All
the track.
Along the track
Yeah.
and
And
up
it
there
would go
they-
upstairs and apparently a girl there would make the change.
Yeah, and it comes back
and then
down
send
for
it
you.
back down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, was that the only place around that
That's
did
the
that?
only place I can
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember anywhere else.
Interesting.
And they did that for a long time,
Yeah,
really.
I used to go in just to watch that.
So did I.
That's
Even if
different.
you didn't buy something big,
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
did
you
because,
just went in to watch that.
well, it was unique.
Definitely.
They had like no cash registers, it had to go up to the second floor,
Okay.
and somebody took the money out, took the purchase thing out and gave you
Okay.
your change.
Okay, I got a couple
Uh,
specific. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was the place to eat underneath the bank at the corner of Main and Park Avenue? Not the mechanics, the one across the other bank.
So it'd been, is that Richland Bank? You talking about
The
the
Richland
Richland
Bank?
There was a place a long time ago, we used to go down underneath
I don't recall.
Yeah,
and eat.
Someone else told us there was a restaurant there, and she
Yeah.
couldn't. She called it the Richland Bank Restaurant. She didn't
I don't
even
know what it
but
was,
yeah.
because my aunt used to work for a police station, and I used to go over, and every once in a while she'd get enough time that we'd go over there, and we'd go in there and eat.
Mhm.
It was a nice place, I
Was
remember.
it a part of the Parkway maybe? Because the next, if you turned the corner there at the Richland Bank, and you would have then been on Park Avenue, there was a big restaurant called the Parkway.
Oh, no, not that,
Mhm.
no.
I have no
Something
idea,
different.
I don't recall.
I remember going down the steps
Mhm.
and into it. And
I don't
it
recall.
was
I
a
don't
nice
recall
place to
that.
go.
Hmm.
But it was below the bank. Is
Yeah.
that correct? And then
Mhm.
okay.
It was below the bank.